Right now, in every parking lot in America, drivers are quietly cooking one of the most expensive components under their hood, and not one of them can feel it happening. No warning light comes on. No smoke, no smell in the cabin, nothing on the dash. Just a sound most people have heard 1,000 times and learned to ignore, while a pump built to last the life of the car gets boiled alive a few seconds at a time. I've spent more than 20 years and over 3,000 cars learning where machines actually die, and I'll tell you straight, I've replaced far more power steering pumps killed by one specific steering habit than by age. The maddening part is that the fix isn't a product, a tool, or a service. It's moving your hands about 1 inch differently. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that sound means, what's happening to the fluid in that system in real time, and the 1-inch habit that lets a steering pump outlast the rest of the car. Here's the habit. You're pulling into a tight spot, or making a 3-point turn, or waiting to swing out of a driveway. You crank the wheel all the way over until it stops, full lock, and then you hold it there, hard against the stop. Maybe for 3 seconds, maybe for 10 while you wait for traffic, maybe with the car barely crawling. Feels like nothing, right? The wheel hit its limit, you're just keeping it there. Except your power steering system doesn't have a limit switch. It has no idea the wheel can't turn any further. Let me show you what's actually going on down there, because once you can picture it, that habit is finished. If your car has hydraulic power steering, and most of the reliable cars my viewers drive do, there's a pump bolted to the engine, driven by a belt spinning every second the engine runs. Its job is to shove fluid at the steering rack to help you turn. Under normal driving, that fluid flows in a loop. Pump, rack, reservoir, around and around, staying cool because it keeps moving. Turn the wheel to full lock and hold it, and the loop slams shut. The piston inside the rack is bottomed out against its stop. The fluid has nowhere to go, but the pump is bolted to a running engine. It can't stop pumping any more than the engine can stop spinning, so the pressure explodes. In that held-at-lock moment, the system spikes to its maximum. Well over 1,000 pounds per square inch in most cars. The only thing preventing something from bursting is a small relief valve inside the pump that cracks open and forces the fluid through an opening not much bigger than a pinhole. Here's the part I need you to picture. Squeezing hydraulic fluid through a pinhole at that pressure doesn't just move it, it shears it. The fluid tears against itself and the temperature jumps. Fast. Hold the wheel at lock, and you are running a space heater inside a system with no radiator, no fan, and no gauge to tell you it's happening. That's not wear and tear, that's cooking. The word in the title isn't drama, it's the literal failure mode. And every second you hold that wheel against the stop, the burner is on. Now the hidden truth, and it's why an entire country drives this way. Nobody ever taught you this because the people who could have all had reasons not to. Driver's ed teaches you where your hands go on the wheel, not what's happening at the other end of it. The owner's manual buries a 1-line warning about holding the wheel at full lock somewhere around page 300, phrased so gently it reads like a suggestion about seat comfort. And the industry quietly moved the problem instead of explaining it. Newer cars have been switching to electric power steering. No pump, no fluid, an electric motor doing the assist. Ever wonder why? Part of it is fuel economy. But those electric systems also protect themselves. Hold one at full lock, and the computer senses the motor heating up and dials the assist back automatically. The engineers knew exactly what drivers do at full lock. Rather than tell you, they built the newer cars to defend themselves against you. Your hydraulic system has no such babysitter. It will obediently cook itself for as long as you hold that wheel, because it was designed in an era when they assumed somebody would tell you not to. Nobody did. That's what this video is for. So that's the theory, a pressure spike and a pinhole and heat with nowhere to go. What that actually does to the fluid, the pump, and eventually the rack itself is where this gets expensive, and I'd bet money you've already heard the first symptom without knowing what it was. Let's start with the symptom you already know. Next time you're in a parking lot, crank the wheel all the way over and listen. That low groan, the whirring moan that rises the moment the wheel hits the stop and holds steady until you back off. You've heard it in your own car. You've heard it from other people's cars in every drive-through line you've ever sat in. Most drivers file it away as just a noise cars make when you turn hard. That noise is the relief valve screaming. It's the sound of fluid being forced through the pinhole under maximum pressure. The exact moment the cooking happens. Your car has been telling you about this problem, out loud, every single time. If you recognize that sound just now, you don't need me to prove you have this habit. Your memory already did. Here's what that sound is doing, over time, in order. First casualty is the fluid itself. Power steering fluid is engineered to lubricate, carry pressure, and shed heat. But every trip past that relief valve oxidizes it a little more. It darkens. It thins in some ways and thickens in others. It stops protecting the metal it touches and starts sandblasting it instead because now it's carrying microscopic debris from the wear it's causing. Then the fluid comes for the pump. Inside that pump are veins riding in a machined housing with tolerances tighter than a human hair. Feed them hot, dirty, sheared up fluid, and those veins start scoring their own housing. The pump gets louder. That groan starts showing up in normal turns, not just at full lock. Assist gets inconsistent, heavy for the first minute on cold mornings. The seals are next. Heat is what kills rubber, and this system's seals were never sized for a space heater. They harden, shrink, and crack. First in the pump, then at the rack, where fluid starts weeping past the seals onto your garage floor in a slow drip most people mistake for an oil leak. And here's the ending nobody sees coming. A pump that's been cooked long enough doesn't just get weak, it can seize. On most of these cars, that pump is driven by the same serpentine belt that runs your alternator and water pump. The day a seized pump shreds that belt, you're not looking at a steering problem anymore. You're on the shoulder with no charging system and no engine cooling, waiting for a tow because of how you held a steering wheel in parking lots for 10 years. I don't need to imagine any of this. I've watched the whole progression on my bench for 2 decades. Fresh Power steering fluid is a clear, bright red or amber, like cranberry juice with the light behind it. I've pulled the reservoir cap on hundreds of high-mileage cars, and the fluid tells me the driver's habits before they say a word. The Gentle Hands cars stay red or honey-colored past 150,000 miles. The full lock holders, dark brown going on black, and it smells scorched. The same smell as a pan left on the burner. That smell is not a metaphor. It's oxidized fluid, and there's only one way it gets that way in a sealed system with no external heat source. Open up the pumps behind that burnt fluid, and the story continues in the metal. Scored housings, varnish baked onto the veins like lacquer, relief valves worn shiny from a life spent doing a job meant for rare moments. I've never once torn down a pump that looked like that from a car with clean fluid. Not one in 20 years. The correlation isn't a trend, it's a fingerprint. Quick reminder, if this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button now. It helps us keep making videos like this. That's the disease, and you already know the sound of it. Here's the cure. And it's genuinely the smallest correction I've ever taught on this channel. 1 inch of steering wheel starting the next time you park. Here's the 1 inch rule. Turn the wheel as far as the maneuver needs. Full lock included. That's what it's there for. But the moment the wheel touches the stop, unwind it about 1 inch. Just enough to take the pressure off the piston inside the rack. That inch reopens the loop, the fluid starts circulating again, the relief valve closes, and the burner shuts off. And you don't have to guess whether you got it right because your car will tell you. Remember the groan? Back the wheel off until the groan stops. That's it. The sound is a pressure gauge you can hear. Groaning means cooking. Quiet means flowing. You'll have this calibrated within 2 parking lots. The second half of the rule is about time. Passing through full lock during a turn is fine. The system was built for moments. It was never built for a driver sitting at the end of a driveway with the wheel pinned against the stop for 15 seconds, waiting on traffic. If you're stopped and waiting, unwind the inch. The wheel doesn't need to be loaded until the car is actually moving. Drop a comment below and be honest. Before today, did you know what that groan at full lock was? I already know most of the answers are going to be no, and that's exactly why this video exists. Now, a few quick housekeeping items while we're on this system. First, timing matters, and winter is when this habit does its worst work. On a cold morning, that fluid starts out thick, closer to syrup than juice, and the pump is already straining just to move it. Crank to full lock and hold it in the first minute after a cold start, and you're hitting the system with maximum pressure at the exact moment it's least able to cope. It's why the groan is always loudest on frosty mornings. If you only manage the 1 inch rule part of the year, make it the cold months and give the car 30 seconds of gentle driving before you ask it for full lock at all. And to be clear about what full lock is actually for, so nobody drives away scared of their own steering wheel, the stop exists, and using it is fine. Swinging through full lock on a U-turn, touching it for a second while you square into a spot, the system shrugs that off all day. The sin was never reaching the stop, the sin is leaning on it. Touch it, use it, and come off it, same as a horn. If your car has electric power steering, roughly speaking, many cars from the last decade or so, you don't have a pump to cook, and the computer protects the motor at full lock. Keep the 1 inch habit anyway. It spares the motor, the rack ends, and the tires, and it means you'll treat every car you ever rent, borrow, or buy next the right way by reflex. And for everyone with a hydraulic system, go look at your fluid this week. Pull the reservoir cap, touch the dipstick or the fluid to a white paper towel, and check the color. Bright red or amber, you're healthy. Keep it that way with the 1 inch rule. Dark brown with a scorched smell, get it flushed. A customer of mine paid $119 for that flush last month, and fresh fluid plus the new habit can still save a pump that hasn't started making noise on straightaways. Which brings us to the money, and the person who taught me how expensive this habit can get when it runs unopposed. A real estate agent from just outside Charlotte drove her 2011 Toyota Camry like a delivery route. 8 showings a day, tight driveways, steep garages, 3-point turns on narrow streets. Her habit was cranking to full lock and holding it while she checked the road, sometimes 10 seconds at a time, dozens of times a day. The groan had been there so long she thought it was the sound of power steering working. The pump gave out first. Whining on the highway, heavy steering on cold mornings, fluid the color of coffee. That job cost her $683. What stung was what I had to tell her 6 months later. The years of cooked fluid had taken the rack seals with it, and the rack was seeping badly enough that it needed to come out. The quote for that was $1,948. Do the math on her habit. The 1-inch rule cost nothing and would have saved her north of $2,600 across those 2 invoices. She's the reason I started telling every customer about the groan, because she'd have fixed this in one afternoon years earlier if a single person had told her what that sound meant. Now you know, 1 inch off the stop, let the groan go quiet, check your fluid once. That's the entire assignment, and it starts the next time you pull into a parking spot. But your steering pump isn't the only thing getting quietly wrecked at a place you visit every week. The way you fill your gas tank is flooding a part you've never heard of, and that one's a 4-figure repair with your name on it too. Click the video on the left right now before your next fill-up. I'll see you there.